What if America's closest allies, the 31 nations of NATO, suddenly became its enemies and launched a full-scale invasion? Picture it. No thunder of bombs, no blinking red alerts at first. Instead, a single switch is flipped. Communications go dark. Satellites go blind. The rules change in a heartbeat. This isn't some distant, accidental skirmish. It's betrayal by partners who've stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades. Friendly bases, joint exercises, shared secrets, all turned into weapons against us. It's a cold, surgical kind of war, and it starts not with smoke, but with silence. Stay with me. This is where everything begins. In a shocking political fracture, the United States walks away from NATO, not with a warning, but with a hard decision that flips the battlefield overnight. Secure links are cut. Shared satellites, encrypted comms, and real-time intel feeds go dark. European forces wake up technically blind. No synced GPS, no drone eyes, no American logistics to lean on. Planes lose software updates. Maintenance contracts evaporate. Weapons built for a shared network become liabilities. Allies stare at screens that no longer light up. This is more than geopolitics. It's a digital decapitation, a strategic amputation that forces NATO into desperate, risky choices. They met in frantic conference rooms and secure video links, a coalition pushed to the edge by humiliation and fear, and then made a decision that would change everything. NATO greenlit a single audacious gambit, Operation Iron Reprisal. The plan was surgical by design, a lightning strike aimed at severing American command, sowing chaos and forcing a negotiated surrender before Washington could muster a true response. It traded prudence for speed. It accepted enormous risk for the chance of decisive payoff. Fleets would sail, air wings would go dark, special forces would move like ghosts. In less than a week, the Atlantic would no longer be a safe place to hide. Then the invasion begins. For weeks, entire naval task forces crawl across 3,000 miles of ocean under absolute radio silence. No chatter, no pings, only the dull thrum of engines and the soft slap of waves against steel. Sailors live on strict routines. Captains plot in darkness. There is no turning back. Almost from the moment they turned west, the voyage exposes a quiet, brutal truth. NATO has been leaning on American infrastructure for so long it forgot what it meant to go it alone. Strip away GPS, and the fleet is forced to trust Galileo, good enough for civilian maps, not for wartime rendezvous. Bearings wobble, timetables slip. Formations that were supposed to be tight drift into dangerous gaps. Small errors cascade into big problems. Captains argue over courses. Signals are sent twice. Trust thins. It's not a dramatic explosion. It's 1,000 tiny missed marks that seed doubt, the first fissures in an anxious, faltering invasion. Worse still, their battlefield awareness is a generation out of date. Without American satellite intelligence and live drone feeds, they're flying blind. Delayed imagery, outdated charts, fragmented radio reports. Commanders are forced to stitch together fragments and guess where ships, aircraft, and armored columns actually are. Targets that would be obvious with real-time ISR become ghosts or catastrophes. Units move on stale information and pay the price. The fog of war thickens into a fog of paralysis, and even their high-end systems can't be used to full effect when nobody can see the battlefield clearly, a deadly prelude to the logistical nightmares coming next. Then the hardware itself turns against them. Those sleek F-35s and workhorse Blackhawks that once symbolized Allied might become logistical nightmares. Vital parts are stamped US only. Critical software updates and encrypted diagnostics sit behind American servers. Specialized test gear and trained maintainers are back on the other side of the Atlantic. Engines need swaps. Avionics need recalibration. Ammunition and guided munitions require unique fuse and seeker support. Planes sit on ramps, waiting for components that will never arrive fast enough. Pride becomes rust. Projection becomes fragile. As NATO scrambles staging points, its air arms are suddenly fragile, dependent, and dangerously short of endurance. From the icy reaches of Greenland, the windswept runways of Iceland, and the sprawling bases of eastern Canada, NATO's armada quietly takes shape. Carriers, destroyers, and troop transports slip into formation. Paratroopers board in the dark. Fuel, munitions, and fragile supply chains are lashed tightly together. A three-pronged axis forms, north, center, south, each vector pointing at America's vital East Coast bases. They move with purpose. They move without a sound. Then, in a move that feels almost courteous, NATO broadcasts a 96-hour warning, public, unmistakable, impossible to ignore. It's presented as mercy. Time to evacuate cities, move families inland, get civilians out of harm's way. But it's also a weapon. The clock is a pressure cooker. Commuter lanes clog. Ports and rail hubs choke on panicked traffic. Local authorities scramble to organize shelters and convoys. Emergency broadcasts sap focus. Troops are funneled into predictable routes. Mobilization becomes coordination under a spotlight. In 4 days, NATO has handed the United States both a moral choice and a logistical nightmare, exactly the kind of chaos they were banking on. Then, at a single signal, the horizon blossoms. Hundreds of cruise missiles launching from ships and submarines, low and lethal, cutting across the Atlantic like a knife. They hug the sea, ghosting under radar, streaking toward ports, airfields, and coastal command nodes. Deck crews watch through nightscopes as tracer-like arcs boil the sky. Coastal towns flick their lights. Sirens begin to wail. Satellites and shore radars flash frantic warnings. Each missile has a job. Blind the shore, sever communications, force defenders to look one way while something else moves. It is elegant, terrifying, and only the opening salvo. While missiles streak inland, black-suited paratroopers and razor-sharp special forces spill out of the night sky, silent, brutal, laser-focused. They hit airfields, seize control towers, knock out comms, and ghost into command centers, cutting lines and setting traps. For a fevered, disorienting few hours, American units stagger, commanders scramble, and chaos reigns along the eastern seaboard. But the American response is faster and more brutal than NATO ever anticipated. Coastal horizons flare to life. Aegis destroyers pivot, their radars howling. Patriot batteries lock and fire. Harsh, disciplined order cuts through the chaos. Missile tubes spit death. Command centers that moments ago were scrambling are now humming with lethal confidence. Where NATO expected disorder, they meet a perfectly timed, professional wall of steel and fire. The sky fills with interceptors. Dozens of cruise missiles streak in, and America's layered missile defenses snap to life. Aegis radars track, sea-based SM-3s climb, Patriot batteries flare. Interceptors launch, lock, and detonate the threats cleanly above the waves. Warheads fizzle into fireballs that fall harmlessly away. Targets that were meant to terrorize beaches disintegrate into burning detritus. They go down almost casually, like flies brushed from a windshield, while command centers breathe a little easier and the invaders begin to realize the airspace is no longer theirs. Under a sky already thick with exploding cruise missiles and the crackle of ground defenses, F-22 Raptors punch through like knives. They arrive fast, silent, and lethal, afterburners spitting, stealth profiles closing the distance before NATO pilots can react. Short, brutal engagements. Missile locks flashed, ECM bursts shrugged off, Raptor's missiles find their marks. Radar tracks collapse. Air bases and carrier wings that expected to suppress the fighters are now scrambling or silenced. In minutes, the sky belongs to the United States. Brutal, surgical, uncontested. And the invaders' air support becomes a litter of smoking wreckage, leaving landing forces exposed and suddenly blind. The invaders' air support is shredded into smoking wreckage, twisted fuselages streaking the sky. Their ISR is gone, radar ghosts vanish. Suddenly, the landing ships and paratroopers have no eyes above them, only empty air and broken radios. Blind and exposed, their beachheads are lit up on every American sensor. They don't just lose the sky, they lose any chance to move without being cut apart. From Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne launches, rotors thundering, C-130s carving the sky, and a wave of air assault troops pours toward the chaotic landing zones. Pathfinders jump first, then slicked troops fast-roping from Blackhawks, artillery crews hustling to set up remote fire, armored detachments racing on flatbed trains to rendezvous inland. They hit hard, surgically, and without mercy, closing gaps the confused invaders left. And by the time the smoke clears, the beachheads are pinned between American steel and a sea that's already turning lethal. Deep under the Atlantic, a silent hunter locks on. Sonar paints a cold, perfect picture. An exposed French task group, hulls bunched and vulnerable. The submarine's commander counts the angles, the currents, the window that won't last. Orders are clipped, tubes open. Cold steel slips into black water with barely a whisper. In the control room, faces turn to the scope and hold their breath. A single launch, calculated, inevitable, slices through the dark, heading straight for the unsuspecting fleet. The torpedoes hit true. Metal screams. A destroyer shudders, then cracks open. A transport erupts in flame and smoke. Hulls groan, seam by seam, as steel folds and ships roll, taking men and machinery with them into the gray Atlantic. In minutes, the razor edge of the invasion dulls. Months of planning washed away. The fleet's momentum snapped like a brittle rope. On the ground, the fight becomes a meat grinder. Quiet at first, then sudden and brutal. Mobile marine units, concealed in dunes and tree lines, pop up like ghosts, thumbs on triggers and targeting data in their heads. Anti-ship missiles scream from hidden launchers, streaking low over foam and hitting hulls amidships. Ramps are blown off, troop compartments burst into fire, landing craft list and capsize, and men who thought they had a beach find themselves trapped in burning steel. Smoke and metal twist into a no-man's land. As the shoreline turns to wreckage, long-range bombers inland line up the next decisive strikes. From bases deep inland, the B-1s taxi and then disappear into the cold sky. Heavy, silent, lethal. They push past radar and loiter, then launch salvos of standoff missiles that streak toward the fleet. One by one, NATO escorts explode in fire. Radars dead. Masts collapsed. Engines out. Smoke gouges the horizon. Convoys break apart. Command nets go dark. Stripped of their shields, the amphibious fleet becomes a hollow threat, its transports drifting without cover, crews fighting fires. The sea turns into a graveyard of steel and oil, and onshore American armor smells weakness and begins to roll. The few invaders who made it ashore ran straight into a wall of American steel. Abrams prowling the sand, Bradleys punching through gaps, Paladin batteries already zeroed in and firing. Trains had vomited armor across the countryside overnight, rails screaming, convoys sliding into position, and the beachheads found themselves boxed in and hammered from every angle. Chaos for the attackers. Absolute grinding momentum for the defenders. Using local knowledge, American armor slips between dunes and creeks, flanking exposed landing columns before they can form a beachhead. Bradleys punch through lines, Abrams break the spine of the assault, Paladins pound retreat routes. Amphibious transports bog and burn in the salt marsh. Soldiers surrender or are cut down. The Virginia coast becomes a smoking graveyard of inverted hulls and twisted metal. While steel clashes, a quieter battle begins in the wires. Meanwhile, a silent war rages in cyberspace. NATO hackers slice into the civilian grid with surgical precision, and whole neighborhoods blink out at once. Streetlights die, Office towers go black, subway signals stutter, and hospitals kick to emergency power. Traffic jams geyser across cities. 911 lines choke. Media feeds flood with rumors. The goal is chaos, to distract commanders, scramble logistics, and turn the home front into static and fear. For a terrifying few hours, the country looks disoriented, exactly what the invaders hoped for, even as the true fight plays out on the beaches. NATO had scored a dirty first strike against the civilian grid, but they hit a different wall when they tried to touch America's hardened military networks. Encrypted links held, redundant satellites rerouted, and secure backups snapped back online. U.S. Cyber Command didn't just patch holes, it hunted the attackers. Within hours, they routed around the breach, traced signatures, and launched a surgical counterstrike across the Atlantic. Backdoors planted, command and control feeds poisoned, false telemetry injected into targeting chains. The effect was immediate and brutal. NATO's electronic picture began to fray, their coordination stuttered, and what had been precision suddenly started to fail. U.S. Cyber Command doesn't just repel the hack, it flips the lights off in NATO's nervous system. Their teams slip into European networks and poison targeting feeds. Satellite links go blank, radio nets collapse, and precision munitions that relied on a single stream of data suddenly behave like unguided missiles. Smart bombs fall inert or miss by miles. Pilots, gunners, and commanders find themselves deaf and blind, forced to shoot on old maps and assumptions. Units stop moving as one. Medevac, fuel, and ammo requests clog and vanish. Chaos breeds hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. The kind of breakdown that turns a bold invasion into a stranded expedition. In the end, the war turned on something boring and brutal: a harbor. NATO never cracked a deep-water port big enough to unload tanks, fuel, and ordnance, and without that lifeline, their spearheads froze. Cyber attacks had blinded their sensors and muddled their charts. Ships sat off the coast, unprotected and easy prey. Supply columns became targets, then myths. Fuel ran low, ammunition dwindled, heavy repairs waited where there was no dock to do them. Men fought bravely, of course, but bravery can't feed a tank. The invasion unraveled not under fire, but under logistics, the quiet, unforgiving arithmetic of supply. And with it went any hope of victory. Every convoy became a sitting duck. Submarines slipped into the Atlantic's dark like knives. Long-range patrol aircraft painted targets across the horizon and never let them rest. Supply ships that had promised the invasion's second act were turned into drifting coffins, torched, crippled, or silently sunk. Fuel lines snapped. Ammunition stockpiles dwindled. Reinforcements slowed to a trickle. Vehicles stalled on beaches. Aircraft were grounded for lack of parts. What had been a coordinated thrust across an ocean turned into isolated pockets of troops scavenging for anything that would keep them fighting for another hour. Logistics, not valor, ran out first. While American forces hum with a continent-wide logistics machine, trains rattle, convoys roll, depots brim with fuel and ammunition, NATO's invasion force shrinks into a single choking bottleneck on a hostile beachhead. Their trucks wait for piers that never arrive. Their armored vehicles idle on sand, fuel gauges whispering empty. Medics run out of morphine. Radios crackle with silence. Men scavenge each other's rations. Each resupply ship sunk means another platoon losing its edge, another mortar battery going quiet. The contrast is brutal. A nation fed by infrastructure versus an expedition starved by it. The invaders are not defeated by valor alone. They are undone by the arithmetic of supply. Then it happens. The waiting becomes movement. From inland rail hubs spring armored columns, Abrams and Bradleys rolling like thunder, artillery barking in coordinated salvos. And above them, the sky is an iron law. F-22s and long-range bombers carving airspace clean, while missiles and drones erase any last escort or resupply ship. The counteroffensive is surgical and brutal. Beachheads are pinched from three sides, supply lines severed, pockets of invaders surrounded and flattened under coordinated fire, air, and armor. Panic spreads faster than bullets. Where hope once clung, there is only surrender or annihilation. The invasion's momentum collapses under American weight. The beachhead finally gives. Everything that had pushed, clawed, and held snaps like a frayed rope. Trenches empty, bunkers boil with smoke. Small unit resistance, once hard and disciplined, unravels under a tidal wall of American armor and airborne shock. Squads are surrounded, cut off from supply and command, their radios dead or jammed. Men who trained for this for years look up at the sky and see nothing but F-22s and vultures of reconnaissance, then lower their weapons. White flags appear amid overturned landing craft. Surrenders spread from pocket to pocket until the shore is silent, an occupied ruin of abandoned gear and stunned soldiers. Thousands of soldiers, men who had trained shoulder to shoulder with Americans for decades, now sit in stunned silence as they're marched from shattered beachheads into custody. Entire squadrons and the last damaged escorts burn and sink one by one, their hulls groaning into the dark. Operation Iron Reprisal collapses under its own weight, not from a single decisive blow, but from a long, slow failure. No ports, no supplies, no answers. They learned the hardest lesson of modern war, that logistics isn't part of the game, it is the game. Now, pause and imagine a darker question. What if the attackers weren't tech-starved allies, but some of history's greatest armies, unleashed on a modern U.S. base? See how that would play out, right on your screen now.